Jealous people often try to diminish a high-value woman's success by attributing it to luck rather than hard work, skill, and dedication. They can't bear to acknowledge that her achievements are a result of her own efforts. By saying you're just lucky, they're not only trying to discredit her but also to make themselves feel better about their own lack of success. They convince themselves that her accomplishments are a fluke, something that happened to her rather than something she made happen. A woman who is truly high value understands that luck is the residue of design. She knows that what others perceive as a lucky break was actually the culmination of years of tireless work, relentless learning, and the courage to take calculated risks. The jealous person sees the beautiful finished painting and calls it a lucky masterpiece. The high-value woman sees the thousands of hours of practice, the countless discarded sketches, the smudged and stained hands. She knows the truth, and the opinion of someone who doesn't is irrelevant. This phrase reveals their own bitterness and envy, their inability to see the forest for the trees. They don't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the failures she overcame, and the unwavering discipline she maintained. To them, it's just a roll of the dice. But the dice were loaded with her ambition, her intellect, and her unshakable will. They might say this about her career success, her healthy relationships, or even her confidence. A high-value woman, in turn, doesn't need to defend herself. She doesn't need to prove her hard work to anyone. She simply smiles, acknowledges their comment without validating it, and continues on her path. She knows that the best response to such a petty remark is not an explanation but continued success. Her life becomes her irrefutable evidence. She's too busy creating her own luck to worry about someone who's just hoping for it. This isn't just a phrase, it's a window into a jealous person's soul, revealing their deepest insecurities and their fear that they aren't in control of their own destiny. 2. Why are you so different? When a high-value woman walks into a room, her presence is undeniable. She carries herself with a quiet confidence that stands in stark contrast to the insecurities of those around her. This can be intimidating and even threatening to people who are content to blend in. The phrase, "Why are you so different?" is often not a genuine question but an accusation. It's an attempt to shame her for her individuality and to pressure her into conforming. They don't understand her choices, her self-assuredness, or her refusal to follow the crowd, and this lack of understanding breeds fear and resentment. A high-value woman doesn't want to be like everyone else. She has spent time cultivating her unique identity, her values, and her vision for her life. She knows that true power and fulfillment come from authenticity, not from imitation. When she is asked this, she hears the subtext, "You're making me uncomfortable because you're not like me." Her response, whether spoken or unspoken, is to continue being exactly who she is. She doesn't apologize for her authenticity. She understands that the world doesn't need more copies, it needs more originals. This phrase is a subtle way of trying to cut her down to size, to diminish her light so that their own feels a little brighter. It's an attempt to pull her back into the comfortable mediocrity they inhabit. The high-value woman is different because she has done the work, she has faced her shadow, confronted her fears, and decided to live a life of purpose, not a life of convenience. She's different because she chooses growth over stagnation, courage over comfort, and truth over popularity. The jealous person sees this and feels threatened. They haven't done that work, they haven't had the courage to be different, and so they criticize her for it. The truth is, they're not asking why she's different, they're secretly asking why they aren't. They are caught between their own desire for individuality and their fear of the social fallout. The high-value woman has already made her choice, and that choice is to live her truth, no matter what others think. A high-value woman is often driven by a deep sense of purpose. She is passionate about her work, her relationships, and her personal growth. She approaches life with a seriousness and intensity that can be unnerving to those who are simply going through the motions. The comment, "You're too intense" is a dismissive way of belittling her passion and her drive. It's a way of telling her to quiet down, to relax, to be less of herself. They perceive her focus as a threat to their own leisurely pace and lack of ambition. This isn't a critique of her character, it's a reflection of their own lack of motivation. When a high-value woman speaks with fervor about her goals, her projects, or her beliefs, she is revealing a depth of character that the jealous person finds intimidating. They would rather she be casual, uncommitted, and easygoing, because that would be a mirror of their own attitude. But a high-value woman knows that great things are not achieved by being easygoing. They are achieved through dedication, focus, and an unwavering commitment to a vision. She understands that her intensity is a sign of her passion and her conviction, not a flaw. When she hears this, she understands that her intensity is a strength, not a weakness. She has learned to channel her energy into constructive outlets, creating a life of meaning and impact. The jealous person sees this powerful force and is afraid. They are afraid of what that kind of intensity could do, and more importantly, what it reveals about their own complacency. They are afraid of the work and the sacrifice that come with being truly passionate about something. The high-value woman doesn't need to turn down her volume. She knows that the right people will be drawn to her energy, not repelled by it. Her intensity is what fuels her success, and she will not dilute her essence for anyone's comfort. This phrase is a close cousin to "you're too intense." It's another way of telling a high-value woman that her personality, her standards, and her expectations are too much for the average person to manage. It's a way of labeling her as difficult, demanding, or high maintenance. This is often said by people who are not ready or able to meet her on her level. They don't have the emotional maturity, the ambition, or the integrity to be in her orbit, so they dismiss her as being a lot. A high-value woman is not a lot to handle. She simply has high standards. She has high standards for herself, and she expects the same from the people she allows into her life. She values honesty, respect, and emotional intelligence. She will not tolerate half-hearted efforts or disrespect. She has done the inner work to know her worth, and she is not afraid to walk away from anything or anyone who doesn't honor it. The jealous person who operates on a lower level of expectation finds this threatening. They want a woman who is easy to control, easy to please, and who doesn't challenge them to be better. When she hears this, she doesn't take it as a negative. She understands that a lot to handle really means too much for you to handle. It's a reflection of their limitations, not a reflection of her flaws. She knows that the right people in her life will not see her as a lot, they will see her as a partner, an inspiration, and a force of nature. They will be excited to rise to the occasion and meet her where she is. The jealous person is essentially admitting their own inadequacy. They are confessing that they are not up to the task of being in a high-value woman's life, and that's okay. The high-value woman doesn't want to shrink herself to fit into someone else's small-minded world. She wants to expand and grow, and she needs people in her life who can grow with her, not people who want her to stay small. This is one of the most insidious comments a jealous person can make. It's a direct attack on a high-value woman's authenticity. They see her confidence, her poise, and her seemingly effortless success, and they assume it can't be real. They believe that she must be faking it, that she is hiding some deep flaw or insecurity behind a facade. By saying, "You're just putting on a front," they are trying to strip her of her power and expose her as a fraud. They do this because they can't fathom that someone could truly be that secure and self-possessed. A high-value woman is not putting on a front. She has simply done the work to build her inner world. She has cultivated her confidence from the inside out. Her poise isn't an act. It's the result of self-respect, self-discipline, and a deep understanding of her values. She has faced her weaknesses and transformed them into strengths. The jealous person, who is often putting on a front themselves, projects their own insecurities onto her. They can't believe that someone could be that genuine, because they are not. They are constantly worried about what others think, so they assume she is too. When she hears this, a high-value woman doesn't feel the need to defend herself or prove her authenticity. She knows who she is. Her actions, her integrity, and her character speak for themselves. This comment reveals the jealous person's own fear of being exposed. They are afraid that their own facade will crumble, and so they try to tear down hers first. The high-value woman knows that true authenticity is a journey, not a destination. It's about being honest with yourself and living in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult. She understands that the person making this comment is simply showing her their own reflection. Their cynicism is a protective mechanism for their own self-doubt. The high-value woman has nothing to hide, and that makes her truly powerful. This is a comment often directed at a high-value woman who lives with intention, purpose, and a certain level of discipline. They see her structured routines, her commitment to health and wellness, her financial prudence, or her pursuit of personal growth, and they dismiss it as unrealistic or impractical. By saying, "That's not what real life is like," they are trying to justify their own chaotic, undisciplined, or unfulfilling lives. It's an attempt to normalize mediocrity and to make her feel like she is living in some kind of fantasy. A high-value woman understands that her life is what she makes it. She doesn't wait for real life to happen to her, she creates it. She understands that the real life they are talking about is simply a life lived without conscious choice. It's a life of passive consumption, of following the path of least resistance. Her life, on the other hand, is a life of active creation. She has a vision for her future, and she makes daily choices that align with that vision. The jealous person doesn't want to do that work, so they dismiss it as an impossible ideal. When she hears this, a high-value woman understands that they are not talking about her life. They are talking about their own. They are projecting their own limitations and their own lack of ambition onto her. She knows that her real life is a life of her own design, and it is far more fulfilling than the one they are describing. This comment is a defense mechanism for their own stagnation. It's a way of saying, "I don't have the courage to live a life like yours, so I will pretend it is impossible." The high-value woman continues to build her reality, one intentional choice at a time, proving that real life is not a predetermined fate, but a personal masterpiece. She doesn't need their validation to continue her journey. This is often the final word of a person who has tried and failed to diminish, control, or understand a high-value woman. It's a comment that encapsulates all their previous criticisms. It's an admission of defeat, a confession that her power, her intelligence, her ambition, and her authenticity are simply beyond their capacity to handle. It's a statement of their own inadequacy disguised as a critique of her. They are not just saying that she is too much for them, they are saying that they are not enough for her. A high-value woman, when she hears this, understands it for what it is, a statement of incompatibility. She knows that she is not too much, she is simply the right amount for the right person. She understands that not everyone is meant to be in her life, and that's perfectly okay. She doesn't need to shrink herself to fit into a small space. She doesn't need to dim her light for someone who can't handle her brilliance. This comment is a gift. It clarifies the relationship and gives her the freedom to move on without guilt or second thoughts. The jealous person is revealing their true colors. They are showing that they were never a partner, but a competitor. They were never a supporter, but a detractor. The high-value woman knows that the best relationships are with people who see her as an equal, a partner, and a source of inspiration. They will celebrate her muchness, not try to diminish it. This phrase is a final, bitter acknowledgement of her strengths and their weakness, and for the high-value woman, it's not a critique, it's a confirmation that she is on the right path.